All right then, let's go ahead and do the rest of our work. Now, I think I want you to move this building a little to the right. No, we can't even see this. Actually, I like that. So maybe I have this one behind it so that we can see this building properly. And we don't really need anything over here, I guess. Oh, we do have something over here, but we just can't see it. If we can't see it, then why do we have it? So, makes no sense. Let's go ahead and move this. And just move it up here, I guess. That makes a lot more sense. Although we still can't see it. You know what, if we can't see it, we should just delete it. It's just bogging down our scene. And actually, if I go to the camera view and if I turn on Passepartout, then I don't have to see all this stuff that's not going to be in camera. So I can focus on it. Right now this is okay. Let me go ahead and check what's in view. This looks a little weird. I don't like the shot. Something looks wrong with it. And there's no car movement on this point, which is not really an issue, but I guess I'll know better after I see the whole animation. And that'll probably be after rendering, so you can still make changes later, I guess. Might want to add some wind. Oh yeah, I did want to add some wind to these trees. That's the only thing I think that but that's going to be in the end. Right now I was thinking of adding the fog, the volume, and so we have okay, let's go to this view and the camera, just have our camera inside the fog. We don't need all this either. We definitely don't need all this either. Let's go over here. We don't even need all this. You can probably go ahead and include this part. And if we look at it from the side, don't need any of this, and probably don't need any of this either. Yeah, that's fine. Since this is our max distance and we're only going to get closer in, so if we set everything according to this, that should be fine. Now this does need to be a little bit higher. Just a tad. That's fine. Now if we go ahead and set the visibility to, either we could go with bounds or we can go with wire. Let's just go with bounds. So this is our volume, and let's give it a volume shader. Before I give it a volume shader, actually let me just optimize my scene a bit, because this is going to get really heavy really quick. So what we don't need, we'll remove. Let me go ahead and sort out all this stuff here. Let's see what we have. What is all this? Oh, it's the empties. That's fine, I guess. Whoa, how many empties? Let me just go ahead and remove these. What is all this? I'm going to make a new folder called empties and move them all to that. And whoa, so many more. Let me go ahead and move these too. Move these to empties. Empties. Okay, so now we have all these in empties, and we can just wow, so many objects. Okay, that's a lot better. And let me just go ahead and move all of these to our scene. Let me go make main scene. Okay, and move all these. Select hierarchies. Oops. Move to main scene. Where is it? Okay, so what's this? The building in the back. Let's go ahead and put all these in the archives. The things that we don't need. Let me see, I have an archive, right? Nope. Let's make a new collection called archive, and I want to hide everything in the archive, but it should render out, otherwise I don't think I'll be able to see our raindrop, so that's fine. What else do we need to archive? What's this? We need this. Okay. The main scene, the empties, don't need empties. The rain, that's the rain. Okay, the buildings, there's nothing in the buildings. Okay, so there is. That's weird. Are these copies or what? Huh, weird. Let me just put all these, doesn't matter, and move these to the buildings too. What do you mean, no object selected? There's nothing inside it? Just references. I can't delete these then. I don't know if I screwed it up or not, so let me just go ahead and save as, in case I did just screw it up. The beacon, what's the beacon? What in the world is the beacon? There is no beacon, so let me turn that off. Move to buildings. Okay, and extras. I'll move it to extras, that's fine. Main scene should be at the top. I don't know why I have all these different scenes. Let me just get rid of these. These are the Unreal Engine. I'll keep extras at the bottom. Extras, archives, buildings, beacon. We don't have. I'll just move this to extras. Collection, you can delete that. Main scene. Main scene is everything. Buildings, then the rain. Okay, good. So we kind of have optimized our scene. Not optimized our scene, but optimized our placements and stuff exactly. So if I just get rid of the buildings, not in the render, and get rid of the main scene, I just want to keep the roads and stuff. So let me go ahead and isolate that out. So that's the road and the ground. Right. What's this? I think these are the placements, like markers I put in the beginning for the blocking out stage. If that is in fact correct. No, I don't think it is. Maybe. Let's see if this loads up. Okay, this is the road as well. So let me just grab the road. Piece like this. That's everything good. Now move this to a new collection called roads. And have the roads inside the, yeah, we can just keep it. And then we can have another one called the buildings. If we can just isolate these buildings as well. That's good. Move these to a new collection called let's call them street buildings. And let's call this one skyscrapers. Okay, so if we get rid of the roads and the buildings and the rain, that's basically our scene, but we need the lights. We do have the lights. Why is everything black? Everything is black because it's supposed to be black. But that's okay for now. Let's just keep this minimal amount of you know, I don't need all this fog, so I might just come here and bring this down. Oops. Oh, I get it. That's the bounds. Let's go ahead and bring this down. Let me see if I can open up a new. Now if I actually change this to a quickly into a box solid. Good. Just wanted to see if maybe if this cuts out, then we'll be able to see it, but it does not, which means I will not need that many that much processing power for this volume. So this volume is effectively only going to be in this area now. Let's go ahead and add the volume. Okay, let's go ahead and add a principal volume. Now this could either, why isn't it? Okay, this could either work well or it could go to shit. And this in the volume, and now we have a volume. which we cannot see. Now we can see better. It's weird. Okay, density is way too much. 0.1, probably even too much right now. 0.01, now 0.05. That's okay. Sometimes I actually do use the emission strength instead. I go to 0.01 and make the density 0. This is the white fog. I could use the density instead. Now it is a dark scene. Let me go ahead and check this out in Eevee. If it crashes on me, then I'm gonna die. Good, let me go ahead and save this real quick. Can't really tell because I have nothing in the field, but let me go ahead and decrease this to 0. So this is what normally our scene would look like. 0.01. This is with the fog, way too much fog. 0.005. that might be okay. Let's go with 0 on this and emission strength of 0.01. 0.01 on this. That just makes it darker, I guess. Ooh, can already get this kind of volumetrics. You know what, I think I'll stick with this. 0.01 is a bit too less. 0.02, 0.02. You know, I might actually just let's go ahead and 0.05 and switch to cycles to see what that does for us. To be honest, the only reason I'm adding fog is maybe because of the lights on the cars and maybe to fade out the background. But to be honest, I could add the lights in the background. I could have the fog lights on the cars in post, and I could also just leave them if I don't need. Like, that's some heavy fog, man. And I think our scene is already kind of faded out in the black background. Let me go ahead and check out our previous renders. Now this one, which was in cycles, it does seem like it needs a little bit of fog, just a little bit, so there's not this harsh cut, I guess. So forget about the volumetrics. If we go for the volumetrics, we're gonna have to add a really dense fog. So if we go for the blending effect, so let me just unhide our buildings so we can see the background properly. So now if we look, we can see that the building is, in fact, we don't even need that guy at the end. Then let me go ahead and switch to cycles. Is fine, but density is way too much, so 0.01 ish is also good. Let's check that. Let's turn this off. The main thing that's actually, I should put the cars in a separate layer too, because those are probably heavy items. Turn this off. Okay, so the fog, there is fog. That's the max amount of samples we're gonna get in the viewport, I guess. Wait, let me check. No, I think it's 9. We still do have this harsh line, and 0.01 is not enough. Let's increase this 0.03. That looks better, I think. And our lights are dimmed a bit. We might need to increase the emission a little bit. Or we could add lights to them instead of the emission. Nah, I think emission is fine. Actually, that's looking okay. But the thing with volume is it kind of obscures some of the details, like the tree and the man. We can hardly make them out, especially with the depth of field. It's just gonna be, there's just gonna be a loss of all the detail that we put into the scene. So what I'd suggest is we render out using a mist pass, and then use that mist pass to basically give it a little bit of a fade out effect in post production. That would be the easiest, quickest, best, and most flexible way of doing it. And also, we can add it in post, and we can decrease our render times, and we don't need to meddle around with this right now. Because right now, I'm not feeling it. So let's go back. Let's delete our fog. If we're not going to use volumetrics for the car headlights, then we might as well not use fog at all. Now let me go ahead and move these cars to a separate car. Oops, cars. Nice. So then what's left? Do we just render out now? Is that our scene? Is that how we end it? Let me move these three up to the top. And then skyscrapers, then rain, then empties. Okay. I don't need extras. Okay, so is that the rest of our scene? How can we improve on this? Because if we check out our renders, and I forgot to save our renders on in the after we added the guys and stuff and the cars, but this scene right now, this frame right now, how can we improve it? First of all, these lights are fine. We can see the traffic lights and everything, but I might want to add that red man, that go sign for walking. Maybe. Also, I would like these to maybe shift, the lights to maybe shift from red to green or something. Or maybe like a blinking light, like a broken light somewhere in the background. I like the effect that we have that we can only see like this little strip of light because of this, instead of illuminating the whole ground like over here. So maybe we can decrease the make it more dark, make our scene a lot darker. We need to mess around with the lights, and let's see. You know what, I really can't tell. Maybe if we just move on. We have this light over here. This light was put on to so we can see the telephone. But come to think of it, I think it doesn't matter as much. And maybe I should decrease these lights. These are 200. Still pretty bright. Maybe move these to 100 and take this off. And where are lights? And whoa, we can't even see our bus stop anymore. We worked so hard on that bus stop, I just realized. We can see it here. Maybe we can move it down here, back into the background, maybe back here. I mean, we have a bus stop all set up, just can't see it. Might need to change the angle a bit even, because over here it looks nice. This is a fiddle. Let's go ahead and render out our scene in cycles and see how it looks right now. Then we can continue with the rest. go on cycles, render out your scene. Be right back then. Okay, so I went ahead and rendered this, and in case you're wondering, this is in cycles. It took 7 minutes again, but how I managed to render it, because previously we couldn't render because we ran out of memory. So this is a workaround. You go into your cycles, see and enter render properties, and if you go to simplify, then you can check it, and that will allow you to change the settings in your viewport and your render settings. Doesn't matter about your viewport as much, although you can work with this same settings, but basically it allows you to decrease or increase the subdivisions and the texture limit, which is a really important thing, because textures take up space, and if for some reason you're using like 4K textures on any of these objects or 2K textures, then it's going to render out and all this memory is going to be accumulated and you won't be able to render your scene out. So what I did do is I limited it in the viewport to 128 and in the render to 1024, which is like 1K, and maybe in the final render I can bump it up to 2K or 4K, or I can just turn off simplify if I can. But this is basically a one-stop shop for you to, instead of go ahead and go into every material and try to downscale the texture settings or take them off or something, this will allow you to just limit it and consume and stop it from consuming all your memory. So that's how I was able to render this. It does take the same amount of time, but we also added a lot of stuff. So let me go ahead and save this as our next what was it, 14, 15, and add it back to my, what do you call it, this, so that we have a nice comparison. Now if we compare the two scenes, the only thing I changed was added the person, this person, this person, right, took out the light in the background, moved the buildings a bit over here, so now we can get more of a view of the buildings, I guess. Doesn't really matter, just a little bit. And decrease the intensity of all these lights from 200 to 100. Come to think of it, 200 was also alright, but I deleted the lamp that was behind our camera, so now we can't really see this side as well. To be honest, it didn't really affect the foreground. I was trying to make it dark like this, and that was probably because I don't think that's possible with cycles, because cycles automatically just ray traces everything. So I guess this is the best we can do. I will add that light back in, and I will actually change it back to 200 because I think this is way too dark, the background, and this looks a lot better. This light can stay removed, the buildings can stay there, and that's about it. And we can have these people inside. Now what can we do to improve upon it? Okay, so I decided to do a render without the depth of field and compare it. So this is with depth of field and this is without. Now I did increase the lighting back to 200 as well. That's why it's a little brighter on this side. But now without the depth of field we can see our person clearly, and this will do the trees. We can actually see the background a lot more clearer too, which we might not want. But compared to this, I'd say it looks not much of a difference. Actually, I kind of like this one better. The lighting is fine with this, but this one, it kind of blocks out all these unnecessary things that are just not needed. We might be able to decrease the depth of field, as in right now it's on 1.2, maybe go to 1.4 or 1.6, maybe 1.8, so that it's not as blurred as it is right now, and that will give us some of this roughness back that we don't have in the previous shot. But it will also be able to help us make out that there's actually a guy in the background, and maybe some of these other objects that we worked so hard to put in. but that's just for testing and seeing if it looks better or not, and it doesn't really matter. Now, the other thing that I would like to consider is I will try looking at the reference photos. Now we have this render and we want to try and improve upon it. Right now it looks like some kind of office building in the background, maybe flats. I guess maybe the type of building that we found and we imported into our scene is the kind that does not go well with something like this, in which this is basically New York or something like this even. But I figured that maybe we should be adding something on the buildings. Like this is a similar building to the one we have now. This does have a little bit of glass and lights inside that we may be able to actually use, although our buildings don't have glass. But maybe we can put a light or two inside one of these buildings to show that it's maybe being used. Just a subtle difference that might make it more realistic. Secondly, I noticed that these kind of trash bags, or I don't know, maybe it's not so good to be littering, but this does make something more realistic, and stuff like these poles with signs on them and maybe other stuff attached to buildings. Let's take a look at a few more references. Now this one looks good because it has all these lights and neons lights and everything reflecting off of the wet ground. Now ours does not have anything like that. Even if you go to this looks very plain. It looks very very boring, not so lively. Although I don't know, the kind of scene that you're going for could be something that might look okay like this I mean. But maybe thinking about the telephone and maybe someone's going to be on the other end, maybe this guy's been kidnapped, shot, whatever. So I'd like to incorporate some of these ideas. Now if we take a look at this building, this picture, I really like this picture because it kind of has a similar vibe to the one we have here because of these multicolored lights. Now this has these different lights that's reflecting off the ground, and I figured that I should add a HDRI into my scene of a nighttime environment, maybe a New York environment, maybe a nighttime environment, so we get these different kinds of different colored lights and reflecting off of the cars, any kind of reflective surface, the ground especially. And also because we can't see our ground so well in here, we can't tell that it's a rainy like weather, except for maybe these guys with umbrellas and the rain that's actually coming through. So I would like to adjust the angle a bit so that, as you see in here, this is a really low angle and we can't see the road properly and the ground if it's wet or not. In this you can actually tell that there are a little bit of puddles, and in this you can properly tell that there are a lot of puddles. And if you look at it, this scene might look a little more cinematic because of the depth of field and everything, but this scene looks more realistic, probably with the bus stop, the puddles and everything. And if we edit out the background and stuff, put in a little bit of depth of field and decrease the lighting, it'll give us a similar look. So I'd say we need to go ahead and change the angles up a bit as well. Secondly, except for the HDRI, might want to add one of these signs, these stop signs that maybe changes color or something. And looking at this, our telephone booth is not as, I'd say, close up as this is, so we won't be able to tell of any of these subtle differences in the glass or in the texture of the actual telephone pole, so telephone booth. So it doesn't matter about adding all these kinds of ribbon streaks and stuff would look good if this was like a country environment, maybe some kind of a town. But this scene that we're going for is more like a city, a busy city with a telephone booth inside it. Let's see, what else can we grab from here? Maybe one of these signs, maybe of a pub or a bar or something in the city. And I'd probably decrease the depth of field in shot because I want to be able to see a little bit more of the background. Similarly, you can see these little odd one outs, maybe like grills or the sewer system entrances that we have. Also, like these little bits of leaves and stuff that are supposed to be on the ground. If we can add these to the ground at various locations, it'll just look a lot more used. This right now looks like it's rained, but it looks like it's rained on a already polished floor that no one's really walked on ever. So maybe we need some kind of dirt, not dirt exactly because it just rained, but maybe fallen leaves, wet fallen leaves, and these other kinds of things that you see that make us, maybe these white blotches on top of this, so that it looks like these kind of white blotches and stuff like paint, or I don't know what it is, so it looks like it's used a little bit. These kind of people have umbrellas too, just like we did. Maybe a cycle, we could have maybe a cycle stand, maybe a few of these neon lights or these boards sticking out to show that we are in a city. Maybe a bicycle stand, maybe a few of these like stone pillar things to show us that we are actually. So in effect, we have done the main scene, but now we're going to be adding all these different kind of elements to our scene to make it look a little more realistic, a little more. We are aiming right now to go for something that maybe we couldn't tell if this is a CG render or if it's actually filmed. For example, this shot looks really good and it is taken by a real photo camera, but it could also be a CG render. Looking at the design, there's nothing here that would be too hard to replicate. Something like this would be a lot harder because it's got a lot more lighting going on. There's a lot more fine detail inside everything that we see. But something like this, where it's mainly dark, lots of lights and reflections and all this volumetric fog, maybe we can recreate this. And I'd actually, if I would like to add a few lights, then we could go for the volume, but that's in the end because we are not going for that right now. So what our next objective is gonna be, looking at our render, add a few lights inside our building, number one. Number two, add a few signs with the lights on them indicating the shops or whatever that are in different parts of the street. Number three, add the HDRI so we can get some reflections off the ground. Number four, change the camera angle a bit so we can see the ground better. Maybe move the bus stop somewhere so we can get a little bit of the blue lighting inside that, and a little bit of a change in the scene instead of a whole block of just buildings going on, because we right now can't see the behind the phone booth, and these are actually two separate buildings, but they look like the same building going on and on. Either we change the camera angle or we change the scene a little bit. Another thing we need to add is one of those stop signs, maybe over here, maybe over here. That's maybe blinking, and maybe a few signs on the tops of these indicating like maybe a hotel or apartment or whatever. And I'd say that's, oh yeah, and the leaves and the dirt and the white spots and stuff on the ground, so that we can show it as if it's being used instead of something like this, which is just a clear not unused city made inside a render. Although it looks pretty good, and we should appreciate ourselves that this does look pretty realistic, especially because of all these photo scanned elements. And if we just add a little bit of, even on the buildings, like if you take this scene, even if we add like grime and dirt and dust and grunge effects to the buildings, to the ground, white spots, leaves everywhere, just basically imperfections need to be added to make your render perfect. And by perfect, it means realistic. By realistic, it means not perfect. Basically, these imperfections. So let's go ahead and add all those and focus firstly on fixing your render as a still, like considering it as a still image and try to fix or try to add stuff to make it more realistic. Then we can go on to making it more realistic as an animation, which includes the tires moving, the wind blowing in the trees, stuff falling down, the rain, all this kind of stuff. That is secondary. Primary is to get one still render looking like real life. So now we know what to do. We're going to go ahead and do it, starting with finding an HDRI for our scene to make it look like a nighttime reflective scene. Okay, so right now I'm in Eevee render mode, and I downloaded or managed to download a few of these HDRI elements. Let me go and plug this in. Let's go to, we don't need this. Let's go ahead and select HDRI now. A few of these I did download, and you can get them online as well. Let me see. I have not actually seen these yet. Okay, I don't know what the hell just happened, but here we are. So we have all these new ones that's like Chinatown, Times Square, subways, and all this jazz. This Chinatown one looks nice. Times Square might look nice. All of these could actually look pretty good. So we're gonna try this nighttime scene. Let's say I'll go with this 49th Street, and let's go back to our render settings. And I forgot, now that is very bright right now, but you do see these blue reflections. And actually, let me go ahead and turn off the transparent background so we can actually see the background, and also so I can get an idea of what kind of environment this is trying to show us. Now that does look pretty good. Let's look at our render mode, even with a transparent, so we can focus on our ground. I'd say that looks better. Might need to decrease the intensity of this a bit, but these textures I downloaded aren't the best quality. I mean, I think they're not even 4K, but right now we don't need them as a background. We need them just for lighting, so it doesn't matter as much. Now if I enable where is it, HDRI, Gaffer HDRI, I think. If I go back to solid mode so it doesn't interrupt me. Let's go ahead and generate thumbnails. Okay, so we've done that. Now we can just go to Chinatown, and then we can keep moving one step back and checking the lighting. And I do want to change our camera angle a bit. Actually, let's not change that right now. Let me just look at it from a general perspective. And let me add our street buildings back in. That looks better. Okay, so over here Let's go to rendered mode and see what Chinatown looks like. Okay, that looks nice. We've got these reflections. Don't have as many reflections on the ground over here. I think it's because of my roughness map or something. I might need to edit that a bit. Okay, so this is one look we have. Let's move on to the next. A little subtle. I don't like this, whatever this is, Broadway. So the Chinatown one is looking good. Nope. What the hell is this? Come on, let's go back to Times Square. Nah, I don't like this Times Square. I still like the Chinatown better as compared to, let's see, 5th. Not as many reflections. Darker. This is darker though, so we could use this in. Same, not as many reflections. I like the colorful lights. This looks better. Pink, blues, purples. What is this? 51st and 5th. Okay, that's an option. Keep in mind this is EV, so we will have a bit of a difference in cycles. This looks also alright. 49th Street. I think I still like Chinatown the best for now. 44th Street, no, too orange for me. Reddish. Nah, doesn't go right now. And then we're back to our skies, I guess. Yeah, so let's go back to Chinatown and see how that looks. Let's see if we actually like that or not. It's a bit on the warm side. It's either gonna be this or 45th, 50, 51 and 2nd. So if we compare our, this is on the warm side, this is on the cooler side. If I set up as if I am in the render spot, let's say render over here. This is one setting, and then we have Chinatown as the other idea. My laptop is slow, that's why I think this is too warm and I'm kind of going for a dark look, so I'm gonna keep with 51st and 2nd. I'm gonna stick with this. It is a little bit too much purple, maybe. That's all I can see is purple. Let me try another one. 49th. Maybe this will be too blue, I don't know. Just for the reflections, to be honest. Okay, let's just stick with the one that we found, 51st and 2nd, and then we'll edit it later. Okay, so we're on 51 and 2nd, and we go to rendered mode as this angle we had before. Now if we switch over to cycled and see what that gives us. This should be a lot brighter than expected, but I will decrease the intensity to maybe 0.1 or 2. And then we'll give it a test render and see, and compare it to the last one. You know what, we can't really tell from this angle at all. And this might be too close up on the phone booth actually, the angle. Let me go change the angle now, because the angle that I had over here, that looked a lot better, this angle, so we can see the whole scene and it's not as much inside on the oh, I think I gave it for the depth of field maybe, but maybe I don't want it to be so deep. Maybe something like maybe this is what I need. Let's go ahead and check that out. Now when you change the camera, there are sometimes parts that don't look as good because you set up the whole scene according to your first angle, but you can always change these things. Now at least we have our bus stop in the scene. We can see the reflections a bit better. We can see our guy, we can see, we'll be able to see the guy in the end, the woman. We can't see the guy behind the phone booth anymore, but I guess that doesn't matter as much. We do not have depth of field right now. Gotta keep that in mind. This still looks really bright, so let me go ahead and switch off the film. Turn on transparency on this, and we do have lights in the scene as well, so let me go ahead and set this to a brightness, I guess. Because this is different when I'm using HDRI from Gaffer. I'd say it's the brightness, but let me go ahead and turn this off for now, because now I know which ones I like and which ones I don't like. So we have 59th Street, and we're gonna go ahead and move this to 0.2. That's to give it a darker scene and less reflections. 0.2 looks dark enough. Might be able to decrease to 0.1 or we might be able to increase you know, this light is really bright over here, really bright. I'll get that down, and I think I can go ahead and increase this to 0.3, or will that be too much? Let's go with 0.1. (0.1) is fine for now, giving a little bit of the effect and also sticking with the HDRI scene. Let me go back to rendered mode and go check out our light over here. This looks awfully strong. 100 watts is it, and so is this 100. Too much, I guess. If there are two lights in the same space, 50-50 for you, and turn the emission down on one of these. Emission strength is 2, emission strength is 0, emission strength is 0, emission strength is gonna go back to 1. Now let's see how this looks. Hopefully not too underwhelming or overwhelming. That does look better. I don't know why what this reflection is coming off of. Maybe the lights over here or something. There's this really bright light on this side. What is this? This light over here. Where is this lighting coming from? Because our scene is dark now. Even with the HDRI, it is a dark scene. Apart from this light, there's like a light over here. What's this? What the hell is this? Oh, I don't know what that was. Do you think this is the thing that's making it so bright? Oh, it's probably this light over here. Maybe I should change this to 100. Back to 100. Yeah. What's wrong with this puddle, man? Let me switch to Eevee. Although Eevee will not show me this lighting as it is. Come to think of it, I think I need to change these lights just a little bit. The one of the worst things about 3D and working on a heavy scene like this with a shitty laptop or a shitty computer is that it takes an awful lot of time to get work done as compared to someone with an expensive, really good, fast system who can just keep working on it and have quick, immediate results. We, on the other hand, have to make do with what we have. Anywho, no point about crying about it. Let me see. This light is really, really strong, I am feeling. So if I go to this light and just go ahead and switch to cycles and go ahead and focus on this light. Just whoa. Almost dropped my mic. Anyway, I'm going to be fixing this light now. Okay, so we should not be able to see this light. So let me decrease the intensity 0.1. That does contain it and it does not let the light leave. 0.3, light does not leave the area. Now it does. 0.2. Yeah. 0.4. And we had it on 0.6 at the beginning. Now 0.1 is way too less. So how about 0.2? 0.3. Compare that to 0.6. I think we can keep the radius at 0.3. The lighting is being affected. How about we keep this at 0.6 and make this 100. Make this 0.3. I see it now. 0.6 is fine. It's good. Get this to 100. That should work fine. Alright, so now in our scene we have our HDRI set up as we'd like. And we can't see the woman until maybe... Ooh, I forgot to should not have done that because we have keyframes on our scene. So let me go ahead and set this back up how I thought it should look. I think it was about here. That was fine. So let me go ahead and save this, and I think I'll take out a test render in just a minute. So out of all our things that we were supposed to do, change the HDRI, add leaves and white spots, add stuff to these walls, grunge and stuff, neon lights, banner lights, and the HDRI. We only put in the HDRI. Now we should probably add a layer of dirt and leaves, and while we do that, we'll take out a test render, I think. So let me go ahead and actually render this out right now, and meanwhile I'll go ahead and find a leaf on the internet, just a leaf.